If you want the chance to win up to $500 in Bass Pro Shops gift cards, stay tuned. Somewhere outside Moscow, there's an elite hit squad specially built to take people out without ever getting caught. 500 officers, tanks, snipers, and a billionaire is quietly paying for all of it. What would it take to stop a unit like that? Apparently, just Google Translate. 2 of the group's members needed to talk to each other, but there was a problem. One was Russian, the other was Serbian. So, just like many of us, when we want to communicate with someone who doesn't speak the same language, they started feeding their messages through Google Translate. And not just small talk. Specific information about a job, which targets in which city, which gun to buy, and even rendezvous points. So far, so good. Yet there was one little detail they hadn't thought about. Google doesn't run that translator out of some server in the basement of the Kremlin. It runs it out of the United States. And with a warrant, it can be legally accessed by the FBI. So while these 2 thought they were having a private conversation on an encrypted app, untouchable by the other side, they were actually narrating their assassination plot in real time onto an American company's servers. One source close to the investigation put it best. It was even better than a wiretap, because it arrived transcribed. Center 795 was built for missions where small mistakes could have major consequences. In Metal Hunter, precision can make all the difference too, as you put your skills to the test for a chance to win a $500 Bass Pro Shops gift card. Metal Hunter is a free military shooting game for iOS and Android, built around 3-wave player versus player duels. There's no auto-aim doing the work for you, so taking the silver pot comes down to timing, anticipation, and precision. Like us at Dark Tech, you'll have to master stationary weapons, unlock and upgrade new additions to your arsenal, then experiment with different builds to find what works best for your strategy as you fight across different locations inspired by real operations. Metal Hunter is giving away more than $30,000 in Bass Pro Shops gift cards, so download the game today for free. Use code DMT to claim your exclusive welcome package and compete for one of the prizes before September 13th. Your first giveaway spin will unlock when you reach location 2, with additional spins at locations 4, 7, and 9. Copy your player ID, head to mh-challenge.com, and spin the wheel to reveal your prize. And make sure to let us know what you won in the comments. Ironically, this whole thing can be traced back to another embarrassment. Back in 2018, a Russian military intelligence unit called 29155 tried to poison former spy Sergei Skripal in Salisbury, England, using a nerve agent. It went about as badly as an assassination attempt can go. Everyone survived, and Western investigators ended up identifying dozens of the unit's officers by name. Some of them had passport numbers issued in sequence, one after the other. That's not spycraft. That's virtually a mailing list. After that debacle, instead of trying to fix the unit, Moscow decided to build a new one and give it everything the old one didn't have. They called it Center 795, and according to the investigation, it was bankrolled by a billionaire arms dealer named Andrei Bokarev. Created in December 2022, it was to report straight to the chief of Russia's general staff, not buried in some chain of command where paperwork could slow it down. It was set up as a full-cycle operation: surveillance, sabotage, assassinations, all under one roof. The whole thing was designed to essentially be invisible. For starters, they didn't run it out of a military base. They hid it inside a company, specifically Kalashnikov. Yes, that Kalashnikov, the gun manufacturer. Officers were on the company payroll. Their training ground was disguised as regular weapons training. It was a unit that nobody was supposed to know existed. Yet clearly that didn't last, and the blame lies squarely with one man, Denis Alimov. At first glance, he's exactly the kind of guy you'd want in an outfit like this. He's a decorated veteran of the FSB's Alfa unit, Russia's equivalent of Special Forces royalty. He'd personally jailed Chechen militants earlier in his career. He had a direct line to Ramzan Kadyrov, the warlord who runs Chechnya on Putin's behalf. By 2023, he was one of Center 795's star hires, running a network of agents whose job was to make critics of the Kremlin disappear. But if you're thinking he sounds like a flawless, totally untrackable, unaliving machine, you wouldn't quite be correct. It turns out Mr. Alimov has a habit of oversharing, even with total strangers. On the Telegram app, he frequently posts in large group chats asking for bodybuilding advice, specifically about steroids. On one occasion, he even asked how he could continue taking the drug while losing the unfortunate side effect of, in his words, man boobs. There's nothing wrong with that, of course, but Alimov was a man with a job to do, and that job required a level of caution that perhaps he did not possess. His targets were members of the Chechen diaspora, specifically people connected to Akhmed Zakaev. He's a political figure living in exile in the UK, seen by Moscow as an enemy of the state for one simple reason: he wants Chechnya independent from Russia. To go after Zakaev's family in Europe, Alimov needed someone on the ground, someone with no obvious ties to Russian intelligence who could move around freely. He found his men in Darko Durovic, a Serbo-Croatian speaker living in the United States. They met in Moscow at a restaurant not so subtly located within walking distance of FSB headquarters. There, Alimov laid out the deal: $60,000 up front and $1.5 million for every target successfully deported back to Russia, alive or otherwise. He told Durovic that if things went well and more names got added to the list, the payout could eventually top $10 million. Yet there was one little hiccup in all of this: the language barrier. Alimov would type his Russian instructions into Google Translate. Durovic would type his reports in Serbian. Copy, paste, translate, send. Back and forth, through an encrypted app they were sure nobody could touch. And for a while, it worked. Durovic would send updates like this one about a target he was trying to pin down in New York. Quote, "At this time, I cannot confirm the location. He tries to make an impression that he's always in the EU in order to disguise his trace, but in reality, he's in the USA most of the time." He researched handguns, specifically which Glock model to buy and where to get one in Montenegro. He talked about needing a hunting team to track down more targets. All of it translated, copied, pasted. It wouldn't have been a problem. That is, had Durovic not somehow ended up on the FBI's radar. Some have suggested he might have gotten pulled into an existing surveillance operation through possible links with a pair of Serbian recruiters for the Russian army in Ukraine, whose numbers were found in his phone. But while it's not clear if that was what initially made him a person of interest to the Bureau or not, what is clear is what they did next. They started monitoring his internet use, including what he typed on Google Translate. But incredibly, this wasn't his only mistake. Twice, in the summer and fall of 2024, he flew to Russia. And twice he tried to cover his tracks by booking the trip as a vacation to Turkey, before quietly connecting onward to Moscow, under his own name, on his own passport. Each time he landed back in the US, FBI agents were waiting with a simple question: had he been to Russia? Each time he said no, and each time the agents already had his flight records in front of them. At this point, you might expect the FBI to move in. They didn't. Why arrest someone when you can just keep watching? So for months, they let Durovic keep talking, keep planning, keep Googling things that incriminated him, all while quietly building their case. Then, in March 2025, they finally picked him up. You would think that Durovic's arrest would have warned Alimov to lie low. He could have gone quiet, stayed in Russia, let the whole operation fizzle out. But that's not what he did. Less than a year later, on February 24th, 2026, he flew out of Moscow anyway. Sure, he took precautions: a freshly made passport, a false name, a beach vacation booked in Colombia as cover. He even tried to buy a burner phone the day before he left. Yet in the end, none of it mattered. The moment he landed at the airport in Bogota, Colombian officers were waiting. An Interpol red notice had been sitting there for him, activated the second his flight touched down. Within hours, the man who'd spent 2 years running agents for one of Russia's deadliest and most secretive units was in custody. Before long, he was facing multiple charges and potentially life in prison. In the end, it wasn't a mole, a hacker, or a double agent who had brought him down. He'd done it all by himself, with a little help from an app you might have used to order dinner in a foreign country. Before you go, remember to check out Metal Hunter. Download the game for free. Use code DMT to claim your welcome package and visit mh-challenge.com to enter the $30,000 Bass Pro Shops giveaway before September 13th.